Honourable Anne Tolley.
Mr Chair, I don't want to take too long at this stage of the passage of this bill, but I did think it's appropriate that someone make mention of the fact that if you pick up the bill as tabled here in the House, there have been a considerable number of changes made to the original bill, and I felt that it was appropriate that someone actually comments on that, and that goes hand in hand really with a recognition of the outstanding work of the staff who were concerned with this. So the original bill was put together and came in front of the committee, but the Clerk of the House, I think, made the most substantial submission on the layout, on the presentation of the bill, which resulted in almost a complete rewrite, not of the content, but of the actual presentation of the bill. And in her submission, Mary Harris said that the bill, when enacted, will form part of our constitutional framework, sitting underneath the Constitution Act 1986, which provides for the head of state and 3 branches of government. And the Parliamentary Privilege Bill, she said, will become part of the overarching legislative framework for the legislative branch of government, which was a really important point when we talk about, when we recognise the importance of this bill today. And she made the point that the threads running throughout the bill as it was originally designed were disparate, and she didn't feel that we had accurately drawn all those threads together. And in fact, she again made the point that the bill was an opportunity to establish a very clear framework that explains and sets out the scope and the extent of parliamentary privilege, and by having a purpose clause that also explains why we need parliamentary privilege and the importance of it. And her suggestion to us was that we have an Act that had 5 parts, and in fact, if you look at the new bill that we are debating here today, that's in fact the advice that we took. So we have a purpose clause, we have an interpretation, an explanation and interpretation as part 1. The second part talks about the purpose of parliamentary privilege, the privileges of the House of Representatives, and then defines the proceedings in Parliament. The third part then deals with the communication, how we communicate the proceedings in Parliament, and goes into the details of publishing. We took the opportunity, as we've all said in this House, to update some of the language where that was possible, take account of new technology, because it's not just producing written copies anymore of Hansard, it's immediately up on websites, and people communicate through the internet. And then a whole lot of miscellaneous provisions. So we really owe a debt of gratitude to the Clerk of the House, Mary Harris, and Deborah Angus, who was an advisor to the committee, the Deputy Clerk of the House, and in the way that they were able to reshape this bill so that any parliamentarian could pick it up, have a read through. There's still a lot of legal terminology, as needs to be in a bill like this, but could follow the reasons and the need and the protections that parliamentary privilege gives us all. And I think that is a really good achievement. And I would like to pay tribute, as I say, to the Clerk of the House and the Deputy Clerk of the House, also to the Ministry of Justice staff who put the rewrite together, listened patiently to the sometimes lengthy discussions from the committee. Fiona Illingsworth, Sarah Carlin and Jessica Brown, and of course our specialist advisor John Pike QC, who's had enormous experience in the courts with these types of legislative procedures, and was able to give some very sage advice as we reshaped this bill and put it through its paces. So, Mr Speaker, that's the only point that, Mr Chair, that's the only point I wanted to make, and I thank all those staff for the contribution that they made.
I call Dennis O'Rourke.